Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So I'm wondering if this has ever happened to you. You're having a nice weekend, you're hanging out with your family, maybe you see a couple of friends, and you're getting some things done around the house, you're running some errands, maybe one of your kids has a sports commitment, and you're just having a nice weekend. And then it's Sunday afternoon, it's late afternoon, it's early evening, and you kind of start to feel weird. You feel a little off. Your stomach feels kind of weird. You're starting to feel a little bit anxious, a little stressed. Maybe you're getting a headache. Maybe you're a little more irritable. Maybe you're just kind of restless. And you're not really sure what's going on with you. And so I wonder if that's ever happened to you on a Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. Well, if that's the case, then you have the Sunday Scaries. And the Sunday Scaries we're going to talk about on today's episode, I just want you to know that this is something that's really common across all industries. There were some recent LinkedIn surveys. There was one in 2018 and another one more recently that said that across all industries, employees report that 66% of all employees regularly deal with the Sunday Scaries, and that 80% report that at some point in the past that they've felt these symptoms on a Sunday evening. And so I said that it happens across all industries, but I actually think it can be extra tough for private school leaders, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So this is something that a lot of us deal with. I know certainly I deal with it, and most Sunday nights over the course of my career, and especially true if I'm coming back from a break. And so we want to make this better. And so on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we're going to talk about how to overcome the Sunday Scaries. So I want to ask you if any of these statements are true about you. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to name some things, I'm going to make some statements, and I want you to think, that's describing me. Okay, first of all, the tyranny of the urgent controls my day, and I start working on my important tasks when the school gets quiet. So when the kids and the teachers leave, you start working on your important tasks. Okay, number 2, sometimes I feel discouraged or lonely or exhausted or stressed out, and I'm just not sure that my job is sustainable. I'm wondering if you ever feel that way. Number 3, my school invades every part of my professional and personal life. Wonder if that's true about you. Number 4, I want to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And number 5, I feel called to do this work, but I am not sure how long I can keep doing it if nothing changes. So I wonder if any of those statements describes you. Well, I've felt all of those feelings many times during my career, and that's why I created the PSL Pro membership. And PSL stands for Private School Leader, and PSL Pro is a membership community that helps private school leaders go from feeling stressed out, discouraged, and lonely to feeling energized, fulfilled, and supported. And so you'll get, inside PSL Pro, you'll get access to a thriving community of school leaders who actually get it and get you. We go live every week for once a month a masterclass, a success path coaching session. We have twice a month where we do the We Get It roundtable sessions. Once a month, a live Q&A that's about anything and everything related to private school leadership. And I want to talk for a minute about the PSL Pro Success Path. So I've created this success path where it has 5 levels, and you pick the level that you are on. And so, for example, there's the overwhelmed drifter, and there's the intentional architect, and there's the skilled builder, and there's the fulfilled mentor. And you're like, okay, well, how on earth would I figure that out? Well, I'll tell you in a moment, but you go and there's descriptors and how you feel and how you think and what you're doing. And then you figure out where you are, what level you're at. And then PSL Pro Success Path gives you a step-by-step plan to take you all the way up through the levels to the fulfilled mentor. And the way you get there is through the content that's inside Thrive Academy. And that's my signature online digital course. And what I've done is taken it and repackaged it, reconfigured it into the different levels of this PSL Pro Success Path. So it's easier to understand it when you see it than when you hear it. And you can learn more about joining the PSL Pro community by going to theprivateschoolleader.com/membership. But again, this is a membership with other school leaders. They get it. They get you. There's going to be going live once a week. You're going to have a very specific success path that's going to help you. You're not going to get overwhelmed. You're going to know exactly what to do next. And it's a step-by-step process to help you grow as a leader, but also to help you go from feeling the way you feel in those things that I described to getting what you want and being that fulfilled and energized and happy leader. And so, again, that's at theprivateschoolleader.com/membership. Excited, just launched that this week, and I'd love for you to check that out. And then, lastly, I want to give you a free gift to say thank you for listening to the podcast. And this one's called 5 Strategies to Help You Work with Difficult Parents. And we know that working with parents is part of the job, and most of our parents are great, but some of them can be demanding and emotional and difficult. And so this guide will give you the tools that you need to build better relationships and have better meetings with the difficult parents at your school. So if you go to theprivateschoolleader.com/parents, you can grab this free guide called 5 Strategies to Help You Work with Difficult Parents. And that's at theprivateschoolleader.com/parents, free to you just as a thank you for listening to the podcast every week. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about the Sunday Scaries. And we're going to break this down into 3 parts. First, we're going to define what are the Sunday Scaries. And then we're going to talk about why do the Sunday Scaries happen. And then third, we're going to talk about strategies to reduce the Sunday Scaries. So let's begin by defining what are the Sunday Scaries. So it's also known as the Sunday Blues. There's some other names out there, but this seems to be the one that's kind of most popular right now. But it just refers to anxiety and even a sense of dread that starts to set in as the weekend draws to a close. And I wonder, if that's something that you deal with every Sunday. If it's something you never deal with, I think it's still worthwhile for you to listen to the rest of this episode because it might be something that you deal with in the future. But as the weekend's drawing to a close, the anxiety starts to rise. And you feel this increased sense of stress and worry. And there's just pressure as you start to anticipate the week ahead and Monday morning. And like I said at the top of the episode, I do feel like that even though this is something that people across all industries experience, that I think that the reason that for private school leaders it might even be a little worse is because of how complex our jobs are. There's so much complexity when it comes to the students and the teachers and the parents and the board and the facilities and the finance and the marketing and the retention and the transportation and the sports program and the spring musical. And I could go on for a couple of hours listing all of the things that are part of your job. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of unknowns. And I think that contributes to the way you feel on Sunday night. And so while this is natural and normal to feel some apprehension or some anxiety about a busy work week, it's research shows that the Sunday scaries tend to amplify that stress and makes it harder to transition from being relaxed and being in kind of that weekend mode to being in work mode. And let's face it, that's not easy to do in the first place. Like when you come back from a vacation or just period, trying to go from being relaxed to get back into your work mode, that's not easy. And the Sunday scaries make it harder. And I talked before about like how this can feel. It can show up physically with like stomach aches or headaches. It can show up emotionally with just like feeling overwhelmed or anxious or feeling a little hopeless. And it can actually show up cognitively by like having it be that you're having trouble concentrating and you're having a lot of invasive thoughts about the upcoming week. And then that can lead to trouble sleeping on Sunday night. And the thing that I'll mention again is, for me at least, the Sunday evening feelings that we're talking about are often much worse for me when I'm coming back from a break. So if you're off for a week for spring break or winter break or Christmas break, whatever, and it's the Monday, it's the first day back, that evening before, I'm not always in very good shape. Okay? So that's what they are. Now let's talk about why they happen. So I have 5 reasons here why the Sunday scaries happen. And as usual, I'm going to take good care of you in the show notes. And those are found at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 124. And not only for why they happen here, but when we get to the list of strategies for how to reduce the Sunday scaries, there's actually 7 strategies. And since I often encourage you to listen to the podcast while you're doing something else, I'm not expecting that you're going to remember all of this. So just listen, take it in, and then that'll be there for you in the show notes when you want to return to it. So why do the Sunday scaries happen? Number 1, because of anticipatory anxiety. So we are all creatures of habit, and we like predictability. We know that at school that predictability and support is huge for kids to feel psychologically safe. And so we like the habit, the routine, the predictability of a routine. And the start of a new week can feel kind of intimidating when we start thinking about what we might be dealing with. And that's where the anticipatory anxiety comes in. We're not sure what we're going to face. You've heard it said, no 2 days the same when you're a school leader. And so, exactly, like you could write a book about all of the stuff that, just this week, the different coaching clients that I have, some of the stuff that I've heard as far as like that's happening at their school, or what just happened before they jump on the coaching call or they get a text and they have to run to the thing. Like, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you can't make this stuff up, right? And so when you think about the stuff that you might face, there can be some anticipatory anxiety. And then Sunday night almost becomes like a pre-Monday morning kind of feeling, okay? So why do the Sunday scaries happen? Number 2 is because of work stress. So if you feel unprepared for tasks that are waiting for you at school, and you're worried about unfinished tasks from the previous week or how many unread emails are in your email inbox, then that's going to cause your stress level to go up. And then when we're stressed, the fight or flight response is going to cause some changes in our body, because our body wants to keep us safe. And I want you to think about it this way. If the fight or flight response kicks in and it wants to keep us safe and it wants to, flood our brains with cortisol and increase our heart rate, and the blood rushes to the extremities so that we can run away faster from the grizzly bear, your brain doesn't see the grizzly bear, and your brain starts to think that the school is the grizzly bear. And as Sunday night starts to roll around and it gets dark and you're kind of getting ready for bed, your brain is like trying to keep you safe. And it's like, well, don't do that. Don't go there. And so we'll get to one of the strategies that will help really calm that down. But that's what's happening inside of your body many times when that stress level starts to go up. The third reason why Sunday scaries happen is unfulfilled expectations. So let's think about this one for a minute. Sunday evening rolls around. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I start thinking about all the things that I didn't get to on the weekend. So whether it's chores, or maybe I wanted to exercise, or maybe I wanted to like FaceTime with one of my daughters, or maybe I wanted to go out on a date with my wife, or there's some project that I wanted to like work on, and I just feel like I'm behind and I didn't get to it and I didn't do the thing or I didn't make progress. And that just kind of like gets into this little cocktail of anxiety with some guilt thrown in there. So it's not just about what's coming up on Monday morning. It's about us looking back at the previous 2 days and feeling emotions about what we didn't get to. And so there's this, like I said, it's this just mixture of emotions that's going on. Okay. Number 4 reason why we have Sunday scaries is a little bit of resentment. Okay. Now, I want you to hear this. You can love your job and still hate Sunday night. So let me hit you with that again. You can love your job and still hate Sunday nights. There are a lot of people out there that feel certain ways on Sunday evening, even if they like their job. So this isn't an indictment on your job or saying that you need to get out of education or switch schools or something just because you're feeling this way. There's a lot of things conspiring against you to make you feel this way that really have very little to do about how much you like your job. And so that's why these strategies that we're going to get to in a moment are so important, because it's hard enough what you do, and you also hopefully are not miserable at work. And this unease and general unease and disappointment that you feel about the weekend ending, and just think about it this way. How do you feel on that drive home from vacation? On the one hand, you're reflecting on vacation. We had fun. It was great. The weather was good. But you're still kind of bummed. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back to sleeping in my bed, but I'm bummed when the week at the Jersey Shore comes to an end and we're driving home. And so think about Sunday night as being kind of like that drive home from vacation, but it happens every week. So there's a little bit of that in there. And then number 5 is lack of boundaries between school and home is another reason why the Sunday scaries happen, because there's just no boundaries. School is like water. Water goes wherever it wants to. And if it is invading every nook and cranny of your home, then Sunday night you're going to feel a certain way because you really feel like you didn't get a weekend. So those are the 5 reasons why the Sunday scaries happen. So now let's talk about 7 strategies to reduce the Sunday scaries. Okay, number 1 is identify the root cause of your Sunday scaries. And this is by far the most important one on this list, because if you don't get clear on why you're feeling this way, you're going to keep feeling this way, and it's probably going to get worse. And, like I said before, one moment you're enjoying your weekend, and then all of a sudden you're just like hit with this feeling of impending doom that you just can't get rid of. And so just instead of just writing it off and being like, oh, okay, well, this is just the way I feel, I guess, on Sunday nights. Like, don't do that. Just dig a little deeper and just start asking yourself some questions. Like, is it because I'm feeling unprepared for Monday morning? Is it because I'm unhappy about my role? Or is it because I'm unhappy about something specific at school? Is it because of what I said before about work-life balance? Or is it because of the unfulfilled expectations? And so here's my point. It's like if you identify the root cause, and let's just say, for example, that you really can nail it down that, you know what, it's not really so much what's waiting for me is it's as much as just that I'm bummed about what I didn't get to on the weekend. Okay, well, that's super helpful to identify that, because then that's something that you can work on. And so let's say that you don't get to all the errands on the weekend. Well, maybe you just have too many errands for a weekend, and that on the way home from work on one or two of the days, you do one or two of those errands, so there's a couple less on the weekend, and then you don't feel that way every Sunday night. So you see where I'm going here? It's like it's like anything in life. If there's a thing with a kid, if there's a thing with a teacher and their behavior is a certain way, and especially if it's a change in behavior, usually it's not the behavior, it's us trying to find out what's causing the behavior. And so we need to apply that to ourselves and figure out what are the main reasons, or the main reason why I'm feeling this way, and then you're more equipped to do something about it. So that's number one. Number two strategy is to be more intentional about your Sundays. And I'm going to give you a phrase here, and it's do the worst first. Do the worst first. And I don't know about you, but on Saturday morning, I sure don't feel like doing the chores and the errands. I feel like that's, because I get up, I set the alarm to go to church on Sunday morning. And so Saturday is the only day that I don't have to set the alarm. Now, we all wake up anyways because our bodies are used to waking up early. But my point is that we're not really feeling it on Saturday morning to do the worst first. But sometimes we don't get to the things that have to get done on Saturday, and then those things have to get done on Sunday, and they run into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, and it exacerbates what we're talking about. Now, I do want to acknowledge that with our Jewish friends, Adventist friends, that there are certain religions where, Saturday is the day of rest, or perhaps Sunday is your Sabbath and it's a day of rest. And so you need to adjust accordingly. But the idea of do the worst first so that you're not working on these things on Sunday afternoon is a pretty important thing to remember. And then create a Sunday evening routine. So let's say you did the worst first, and at such and such a time on Sunday evening, I think this is super important, that you're going to start to do something that helps you wind down, So if you, in this lucid moment, maybe you're not listening to this on a Sunday evening, you think, okay, what are the things that help me to relax? Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's watching a show. Maybe it's listening to music. Maybe it's reading a book. I hope it's not great if the Sunday evening routine that gets you to wind down is being on social media or checking news, even worse, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. But to just have a little bit of a routine before bedtime on Sunday evening, even if it's just on Sunday evening, where you're doing something very intentionally that's going to help you relax and help you fall asleep. And that leads us to strategy number 3, which is go to bed. Strategy number 3 is go to bed. You know how much sleep you need. And so rushing around, doing the last thing, and listen, I get it. Everyone listening here is at a different season in their life. My wife and I became empty nesters about a year and a half ago. But I remember what it was like to have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old, 3 daughters with long hair and bath time and packing lunches and all that kind of crazy stuff I get it. Everyone's at a different stage. But Sunday evening, it's not going to do us any favors if we're getting to bed a lot later than we should. And the way that we can actually have some agency surrounding this is to just get intentional about it and work backwards from the time that we want to be in bed. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know that you know that, but we vastly underestimate how important our sleep is, and we get way less sleep than we need. And so if we can just make a little progress in that direction, it'll make a big difference. All right. Strategy number 4 to overcome the Sunday scaries is to be more intentional about Friday afternoon. Be more intentional about Friday afternoon. So once you've identified the root cause, if the thing that's really stressing you out is what's waiting for you on Monday morning, then maybe you need to spend the last 30 minutes of the workday on Friday differently. Because the way you spend the last 30 to 60 minutes of Friday is probably going to impact Sunday night. Now, I want to give a little disclaimer, and that is that all of this is easier said than done, and in particular, this one. Because on Friday afternoon, I don't know about you, but that's when I'm the most exhausted. And I'm just looking for that time when I can leave and go home. And for many of us, it's we make it to the end of the school day, and then there's a basketball game or a soccer game or a concert or something else, and then a school dance, and it gets even later. I get that. But just hear me out on the concept, and that is to claim some white space in your calendar where you schedule some time with yourself on Friday afternoon. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to look at your next week, and you're going to claim white space on your calendar, and you're going to perhaps even fill out your index card for Monday morning. Now, if claiming white space and the index card are not familiar terms to you, I will link that episode. I think it might be episode 4, but I'll link that in the show notes. And it's about some productivity hacks for busy private school leaders. And you can listen to that, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. But the things you'll listen to in that episode, if you apply them on Friday afternoon, I'd like to say I can guarantee you, but I am pretty positive that it will impact you positively on Sunday night if you do some of those things on Friday afternoon. So I'll link that in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 124. All right, that brings us to strategy 5. This one is create a Monday morning treat. Let's have something to look forward to on Monday. Let's say that there's a special coffee that isn't very good for you, and it's a treat. It's not your normal morning coffee. I don't know. I'm not a big coffee guy, so maybe it's got more whipped cream and more sugar or more caffeine or whatever. Maybe it's a breakfast sandwich, okay? There's this one breakfast sandwich at McDonald's that I only eat like twice a year, but like instead of it being like an English muffin, they actually have like 2 little pancakes with like maple syrup inside the bread part. But it's not very good for me. And so here's my point. I just want you to think about like what could be a Monday morning treat. And if you have something to look forward to, it could also be that, like, let's say that you have a sister or your mom or a friend or someone that lives out of town. I know some people who will put in their earbuds, and they will call a friend, and that friend is also on their way to work on that morning. What could you do on Monday morning that wouldn't take a lot of time, that would be a treat, and it is something to look forward to? I think that could be a huge game changer for you, and it doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be time consuming. So number 5 strategy is to create a Monday morning treat. Number 6 is reduce screen time on Sunday. And I don't just mean right before bed. I just mean in general, like, let's face it, like during the week, it's almost impossible to not have screen time because of the way that we communicate at our schools with text and with WhatsApp and different things like that, Slack. But if on Sunday we can do less screen time, that can lead to less stress and better sleep and more focus on human interaction, which brings us more joy. And even if the only thing that you do is that you don't check work email before bed. That's a great place to start. And if you don't have the self-discipline to not lay in bed and scroll and check that, then charge your phone just out of reach. That's what I started to do because I did not have the self-discipline to not check email in the morning while laying in bed before I said good morning to my wife. And so I started charging my phone just out of reach. It was a huge game changer, and I still do it to this day. And then strategy number 7 is to practice gratitude. And again, I will link an episode that I did on gratitude in the show notes, but it's very, very difficult. The research supports that it's very difficult to be anxious and grateful at the same time. And when we can refocus our brains on the things that we are thankful for, we can then snap out of the amygdala hijack of our brains focusing on the unknowns that we're stressed about. See, things that we're grateful for are either in reality in the present. I'm grateful for my wife, for my daughters. Grateful for things that have happened in the past, when that financial need was met, or when I got that job, or when I got that promotion, or whatever. These are tangible, real things that exist in the present or the past that we're grateful for. Those can tether us more than being untethered by the anticipatory anxiety of stuff that hasn't happened that we're not sure what's going to happen. So gratitude, a gratitude practice, a journal, writing down 3 things on a Post-it can be a really big deal. All right, so what are the big takeaways from today's episode? First of all, remember that the Sunday scaries are very common. Anywhere from 66% to 80% across all industries have experienced this. Why do they happen? Number 1, anticipatory anxiety. Number 2, work stress. 3, unfulfilled expectations. 4, resentment. 5, lack of boundaries between school and home. And then 7, strategies to reduce the Sunday scaries. 1, identify the root cause of your Sunday scaries. You got to know why this is happening. Number 2, be more intentional about your Sundays. Do the worst first. Number 3, go to bed. 4, be more intentional about Friday afternoon. Check out that episode about the productivity hacks. And if you're more intentional about what you do on Friday afternoon, it will make a difference on Sunday night. Number 5, create a Monday morning treat. Number 6, reduce screen time on Sunday. And number 7 is practice gratitude. I like to end every episode with a call to action. I just encourage you to pick one strategy and try it on Sunday. If this is a thing for you, feeling a certain way on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, pick one strategy and try it on Sunday. And I want to give you another free resource. This one is called The 6 Things That Every Private School Teacher Wants from Their Leader. This is a 6-page PDF that can be a game changer for you. And I guarantee you that if you do these 6 things, the teachers at your school will be happy to follow you. So this is at theprivateschoolleader.com/guide. That's the 6 things that every private school teacher wants from their leader. Free for you at theprivateschoolleader.com/guide. And then just a quick reminder about PSL Pro. Being a private school leader can feel really lonely and isolating. And we often vent to a spouse or partner or friend, and that person will say, well, just tell the parent no. And then we say, well, you just don't get it. I can't do that. And so there's a community of private school leaders who actually do get it, and they get you, and it's called PSL Pro. And we have live meetups once a week, and you can post in the community, and we support each other. And we even have a thing twice a month that's a live meetup called the We Get It Roundtable, where you can give and get encouragement. And so I want you to imagine surrounding yourself with other private school leaders who understand you and want to support you. And so go to theprivateschoolleader.com/membership to learn more. And if you would just please share this link to this episode with another school leader in your life, or a rising leader at your school. We want to get the word out and get these practical tools into the hands of as many people as possible. So, as usual, I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I want to say how much I appreciate you and the hard work that you're doing at your school for the lucky kids and teachers that you serve. Thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to join me here today, and I'll see you next time on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.